Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Wycombe Abbey School Hong Kong webinar today. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Evan Liang, and I'm the PA to the Deputy Head, Academic Head of Wycombe Abbey School Hong Kong, and I will also serve as the moderator of today's webinar. For today's webinar, we would like to ask all the attendees to please mute your microphones. Today's webinar topic is the Chinese curriculum of Wycombe Abbey School, Hong Kong. In this webinar, we will be speaking about the Chinese curriculum at Wycombe Abbey School, Hong Kong. The webinar will begin with a 30 minutes presentation led by our Deputy Academic Head, Ms. Jenny Chen, who will be introducing the curriculum, her team, our approaches to teaching native and non-native pupils, and materials used in this curriculum. Following the presentation, we will conduct a Q&A session in which you could ask any questions you may have about our Chinese curriculum and the school. For the Q&A session, please type in your questions in the chat box. You can press the chat box button at the bottom of your screen, which will prop a box to your right side, and so that you could allow you to type your questions. I, the moderator, will then ask your questions aloud for our speaker to answer your questions. You are welcome to message your questions to everyone or to me directly. We will do our best to address all questions asked during the Q&A session. Please note that for today's webinar, the majority of the presentation will be conducted in Putonghua, supplemented by presentation slides in English. For our Q&A session, questions can be asked in both English and Chinese, and answers will be provided in English and Chinese respectively. I will also provide translations as needed during the Q&A session. At the end of today's webinar, contact details of our school will be provided on your screen. We will also follow up with a post-webinar survey to all the viewers. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Deputy Academic Head of Wycombe Abbey School, Hong Kong, Ms. Jenny Chen.
Thank you, Evan. 尊敬的各位来宾，下午好！欢迎您拨冗参加今天的线上说明会。首先，请允许我介绍一下学校。香港威雅学校位于风景优美的港岛南区，香港仔田湾，是一所男女合校，为适龄学童提供卓越的英式私立小学教育。我们的教学方针源自拥有历史和卓越学术成就的英国威雅公学，秉承其严谨的学术传统，除中文课以外的所有课程都基于英国国家课程。我们致力提供全人教育，14个科目中包括戏剧、艺术、科学、体育和 STEAM， 以及一系列精心挑选的课外活动，培养了学生的好奇心和兴趣。我们的信念是，通过提供沉浸式的学习环境，鼓励学生在实践中培养批判性思维。我们坚信，全面发展及具有自信心的学生是最成功的。我们也坚信，这种中西合璧的教育会使我们的学生在世界上最好的中学里出类拔萃。说到中西合璧，香港威雅学校的特色之一就是有口皆碑的中文课程。今天就让我为您详细介绍一下该课程。首先自我介绍一下，我叫陈洁如，目前在香港威雅学校担任副校长职位，主要负责所有科目的日常教学工作。我同时身兼中文部主管，亲自规划制定了中文课程。 大学毕业以后，我一直致力于国际学校小学阶段的教学开发和领导工作。整整17年，在内地和香港多家优秀的国际学校，积累了一线的教学经验以及中层管理经验。因此，我的特长是课程开发、语言教学以及教师培训。作为一名语言老师，我对此项工作满怀热情，因为我始终相信，语言是理解世界必不可少的工具。接下来，我们一起来认识一下我们的4位中文老师。他们都来自中国内地，在香港完成了研究生阶段的学习。在加入威尔学校之前，在香港知名国际学校以及本地学校从教。4位老师的理念强调了以学生为本，语言与文化是不可分割的整体。在学校，中文课程以普通话教学，学生学习简体字和汉语拼音。中文与英文、数学是3门并驾齐驱的主课，每周课时量都是7节。那么，如何因材施教呢？我校每年会通过分组考试，将学生分成母语组和非母语组。考试试卷有简体和繁体2个版本可供选择，有效地测试学生听说读写各方面的真实水平。通过分组，降低了师生比例，每个学生得到更多的师生互动和练习的机会，创造了语言学习的优势条件。尽管学生的语言水平不一，但是我们分组不分班，这2组同学仍然有机会在一起上课，比如文化课，由此创造出沉浸式的语言环境，让学生们互相学习，共同进步。现在我给大家介绍一下我们的非母语课程，这一部分我将用英语来介绍。Our non-native speaker curriculum was based on a guide for non-Chinese speaking students from Hong Kong, as well as the international curriculum framework. The non-native speakers start to learn Pinyin in year 3 when they accumulate the enough vocabulary. Students will be able to use a good amount of Chinese in written and orally. Students will learn about Chinese culture through appreciating ancient poems. By getting to know famous poets, understanding the writing intentions and the related history and social background. Students will be taught 16 classic, well-known poems from year 1 to year 6. Here is some example work from our students. The textbooks are from Better Chinese Company for my first Chinese readers. From year 4 to year 6, the textbooks for non-native speakers are from 中文 or 汉语 from Jinan University. If you're interested in these books, you can download them on internet. 好，接下来我再介绍一下我们母语课程。课程来自9年义务教育新课程标准，学生从1年级第2学期开始学习汉语拼音。 6年需要掌握2500个汉字，这个数量我们老师仍然在做进一步的统计。具有一定的书写速度与准确性，运用常见的表达方式写作，能够文从字顺地表述自己的想法，能初步鉴赏文学作品，背诵30首古诗，学会使用语文工具书，阅读浅易文言文，初步具备搜集和处理信息的能力。关于母语课程，我想着重谈一谈简繁体。我们的宗旨是简繁共存，这是因为在香港、澳门、台湾等地区，繁体字是主要的字体。除此以外的国家和地区都以简体为主。我们希望学生在系统的学习简体字的同时，具有识读繁体的能力。这样，在世界各国和地区，他们都能顺畅的阅读。我们的学生有得天独厚的环境优势，通过课外活动、中国文化课、图书馆阅读课等等，认识繁体字，更好的成长为语言多面手。写繁体字的同学，写错字的时候不用担心，老师们会给出简繁2种字体供其参考。这也充分说明了我们在教简体字的同时，接受繁体字。大数据告诉我们，常用汉字一共有8000多，其中只有1/4是被简化的字，而这些简化字并不是凭空捏造的，而是有规律可循的。在此，我举了几个例子，有假借字、草书、楷画，采用繁体字或异体字的轮廓特征，省去字形的一部分，而类推简化是其中最主要、最重要的一个规则。为什么要向大家介绍这个规则呢？是因为我们考虑到，有的学生从繁体过渡到简体时会有不适应，我们会帮助学生从了解汉字入手，学习简繁体的转换规律，一起克服识读与书写的困难。我们一起来看一看学生的作品。从1年级开始，我们用的教科书都是从部编版的语文教科书中节选。3年级开始，学生会学习简短的文言文。从5年级的作品，大家可以看到，中文不是传统的写、读、死记硬背，评估方式以及作品会有其他不同形式展示出来，比如海报。我们学校非常重视阅读，这可算是学校的特色之一。每个班每周有1节中文图书课，中文老师会节选片段朗读或者整本阅读故事，并且会根据学生实际能力推选阅读书目。另外，每个学生每周都有课后阅读任务，需要完成相应的阅读报告。1年级、2年级，我们鼓励亲子阅读。家长在跟学生读完课后阅读以后，签名，并且可以给老师写留言。 3年级以上，我们鼓励独立阅读，并且独立完成阅读报告。值得一提的是，我校所有的教学资源均来自于中国内地、香港本地、新加坡以及台湾等地区，都是经过领导层深思熟虑、严格甄选的结果。目的就是让我们的学生有机会接触各地优质的中文阅读材料，拓宽视野，极大的丰富自身的知识储备。我们期盼学生能借助拼音与字典，不畏惧中文阅读，培养好习惯阅读，最终学会独立阅读，并能保持终身阅读。随着学校规模扩大，我们的中文课程仍然会从以下几个方面继续发展，为学生寻求更多的运用中文的机会，比如跨学科合作，介绍中国戏曲、经典话剧，又如学习民族舞、中国功夫、武术，参加校际朗诵节、才艺表演。中文老师会组织校内汉字听写大赛、对诗等等。最重要的是，我们还需要进一步发展并完善中文评估制度。我的简单介绍到此结束了，谢谢您的耐心聆听。以下是问答环节。
Thanks, Jenny. Now we will begin the Q&A session of our presentation today. For this session, please type your questions in the chat box. You could press the chat box at the bottom of your screen, and it will show a box on the right side that will allow you to type your questions. Then I will ask your questions for Ms. Jenny Chen to answer. You are welcome to message your questions to everyone or to me directly. Questions can be asked in both English and Chinese, and answers will be provided in English and Chinese separately. I will also provide translation as needed during this session. We will do our best to address all questions asked during this session. Now we will wait for a few minutes to let you enter your questions in the chat box. Okay, here comes the first questions about the Chinese curriculum. How do you support families with Chinese learning when neither parents speak Chinese?
Evan, sorry, could you please repeat the second part when parents do not speak the language? Is that right?
Okay, I will repeat the question again.
Thank you.
How do you support families with Chinese learning when neither parents speak Chinese?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. If parents do not speak the Chinese language at home, you do not have to worry at all. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, there are 7 lessons per week for each student at school. And second of all, as language immersion, we have a big group of Chinese-speaking students here who can provide the culture, who can provide the language environment for your children. And the third point I need to address now is we also have after-school activity. During this session, teachers will invite some students who need more or extra support to attend extra Chinese lessons. And we have reading programs for your children. And during this time, do not forget, our teachers are always available, as well as myself. And we are always here to provide you any service or answers if you need. And we are an English school, and our pupils speak, most of our pupils speak English. So Chinese is provided as another language really to equip your children for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Now we will answer the second questions. Do Chinese teachers understand Cantonese? 我们的中文老师能理解广东话吗？
Thank you, Evan. 我们的中文老师跟我一样，都係識聽識講少少啦。但是在中文教學當中，我們會盡量的說普通話，因為我們知道在學習任何一種語言的時候，盡量的利用這個語言，創造有利的語言環境是非常重要的。如果學生知道我們會講英文，如果學生知道我們會講廣東話，那麼他們的依賴性就不一樣了。所以如果您不會講普通話，需要跟我們老師溝通，都唔係好大嘅問題。Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another question is, what happens if I join in year 6, but I can hardly speak Chinese?
I guess no matter which year you come to Wycombe Abbey, you start joining us, and we provide the same service. As I mentioned, as I answered to the first question, what we provide is intensive language environment here. And we provide students a lot of reading support. And I think it is very difficult and challenging if you come in at any older year groups. But I guess as a learning language, we always have to start from the beginning. And as I mentioned earlier, our program is differentiated. We designed the materials and the level for each group and each level. So students, all of students' needs are well catered and looked after. So do not have to worry. No matter which year, your students, your children, our students come and join, they will be very well looked after. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, the following question is, do you enroll the students to join in the public competitions like GAPSK?
Thank you, Evan. I'm not quite familiar with the title of this competition. As we're moving forward, I can show you this slide, and we are looking for the opportunities to join in a variety of competitions and festivals. However, I have to say, joining these festivals and competitions, we certainly don't want to add any pressure onto students or onto families. The only purpose of doing this is promoting our students' language ability and let them enjoy language learning and let them use this language as much as possible outside the school. So yes, we will. If you have any more detailed information, please forward to me. I would love to know more about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another question is, would Chinese be used for general study topics, or math or Chinese is learned mainly as a language subject? Please.
Thank you. Chinese is taught as a discrete subject in Wycombe Abbey. We are an English school, And the media language is English. Student will learn all of the subjects except Chinese in English. We do not require Chinese assessment for entry. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, if my child writes traditional Chinese, will he be penalized in homework?
Yes, as I introduced in my presentation earlier, we teach simplified characters, but we do accept traditional characters. When there is any mistake happening, we provide 2 versions for references. I'm just looking for this slide, and you can have a look about this one. The only thing we do not wish to happen is mixing in one character, mixing both formats. Let me give you an example. For example, 妈妈的妈, we do not want students to write 简体字的妈 with the 4 dots underneath. I wish I could have a whiteboard here and then I could write for you. But in a piece of writing, if your child wished to write both formats, that would be accepted. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another real question is, my son has no knowledge on Mandarin on year 1. How could he understand and enjoy the class? Understand school offer extra curriculum for traditional Chinese. Would you like to explain more?
If your child comes to year 1 with no Chinese, that is very normal, because at the moment in year 1, we do have students who came in with no Chinese. And we have 7 Chinese lessons every week. And as I said, within the class, we got groups. And a teacher, we have 2 teachers in each class. 1 teacher is in charge of non-native speakers. This group of children, their textbook, let me show you this slide, and I can explain more. As you can see, these textbooks are very different from native speaker group. And they start from, what's your name? How old are you? Who are in your family? Basically introducing yourselves. But having working in international schools for a long time, we certainly don't teach them from this is a pencil, because this is not conversational. We want them to be able to use the language outside the school or even inside the school with the other children. So conversational language goes first for the non-native speakers. Of course, later on, we will expect them to write in paragraphs. What you can do at home, I think this is also applied for the second question, if I remember correctly. And you can always supervise them and ask them to practice writing at home. Because the main complaint from non-native speakers is Chinese are so hard to write. More practice, it will make everything easier. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another question. Is the Chinese curriculum have the same lesson hours compared to English in all grades of primary?
Excuse me, Evan, could you please repeat your question?
Sure. It's about the learning hours. Is the Chinese curriculum have the same lesson hours compared to English in all grades of primary?
Chinese, thank you. We have 7 Chinese lessons per week. Each Chinese lesson is the same as the other lessons, 35 minutes. And yes, the answer is yes, 4 hours for Chinese subject per week. And Chinese is offered at the same importance with English and maths at school. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, how can non-native parents read Chinese books with their kids by Mandarin at home? Or is there any video book provided for every book?
Thank you. Yes. Before I answer this question, I would like to I want to briefly tell you about how we do during the school closure. Our online platform is working really successfully, and Chinese teachers also provide online live teaching. And it's very, very good. And I'm very happy to hear from our Chinese teachers that a lot of parents are actually learning Chinese. They would love to sit down with their students in front of the computer and learning Chinese with their children. Of course, it gives our Chinese teachers a little bit pressure, but they are all very capable. But what I want to say is, yes, we do provide audiobooks, and teachers also have a lot of recordings, even videos for these children. And later on, we are going to carry on to use our iLearning platform, online learning platform. So they will be able to check their homework or any reading materials from the online platform. Besides that, I was telling you earlier, we are teaching Pinyin. Pinyin is a great tool for students, all of students actually, to get to know Chinese better in written, and then to help them to be confident, more confident, and more confident in reading. I know when I speak by here, and some native speakers, parents would say, hey, wait a minute, that is the issue, because my child relies on Pinyin so much, and that's why they can't improve reading. But that's another reason we are introducing and teach them how to use dictionaries. So Pinyin is the transition for reading and for typing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. The following question is still focused on our Chinese curriculum. What is the goal for the native and non-native stream? Like for native, what standard do you aim students to be able to achieve, such as the assessment against the same age pupils in mainland or Taiwan? And also, how about for the non-native?
I'm going to introduce the standards for native again in Chinese. So I think it's easier for me and it's easier for you to understand. 目前我们的中文母语的课程是从9年义务教育新课程标准里参考了这个课程。那么我刚才在介绍的时候也提到了这2500个汉字，这个是不编版的这个新课程标准所提出来的。我们是不是一定能够达得到？我们今年是第1年，那由于各种社会因素，我们也有很长时间没有在学校，所以我们的老师仍然在做进一步的统计。这个语言能达到什么？现在我们都是在期盼我们的学生能够达到的是跟在国内的本地小学能跟他们的水平相齐平，但是能不能一致呢？我想说的是，不是说我们没有信心，而是因为受于我们是一个英式的小学，英文是最主要的课程。那么我们的课时尽管已经很多了，可是要跟本地学校比的话，那么其实还是不够的。所以给我1年到2年的时间，我会告诉您，母语班到底能够达到什么样的水平。但是我想说的是，目前是跟着9年义务教育的新课程标准里的每一个年级要达到的要求，跟着他们走的。As for the non-native speakers, First of all, oral language is the first thing. By the end of year 6, we hope students can carry out the daily conversation with a native Chinese speaker with no problem. And for reading and writing, they can read very simple books, not chapter books here when I say simple books. And they can, of course, if they would like to read more, such as chapter books, they can always use pinyin or dictionary to assist them. But for writing, by the end of year 6, we would like our students to write in paragraphs, and they can write accurate Chinese characters by heart. As the standard assessment, at the moment, we do not have any standard assessment in place. However, there is GCSE, IGCSE, even in common entrance exam. The foreign language is one of the exams. So one of my responsibilities is looking at these papers, past papers, and then to teach your students to reach the goal and to meet those standards. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, the following question is about our schools. Okay, how many students per class? What is the student to teach ratio?
At the moment, in general, this is applied in Chinese lessons. But generally, we have 2 teachers, 1 teacher and 1 teaching assistant in the mainstream classes. The maximum is not going beyond 24. And in Chinese lessons, we carry out the same way as we do. So by this ratio, in the mainstream classes, it's 1 to 12. And in Chinese lessons, our ratio is 1 to 8. You would wonder why? Because physically, you see non-native speakers and non-native speakers. However, in those 2 physical groups, there are still levels. And usually we have 3 groups. As we say, there is non-native, near native, and native. And then teachers differentiate these groups and cater for them and grouping them and trying rotations in different ways with differentiated activities. So our group ratio is the advantage. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, understand school offered extra curriculum for traditional Chinese. Can you introduce a bit more?
Yes, of course. Our ECAs, we originally introduced calligraphy. And then it's quite surprising that this ECA, Chinese calligraphy, got to be canceled because nobody was choosing this activity. And I had a look. Do you know why? Because we have so many more interesting activities going on. I'm not saying Chinese calligraphy is not interesting. The students would love to do rock climbing. They would love to do robot. They would love to do cooking classes. I guess we got to blame. We have so many activities offered here. But yes, this is still our plan to offer more activities related to Chinese culture, related to Chinese, writing Chinese, traditional characters, appreciating them. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay. What happens if I join in the school, but I can hardly speak Chinese? How can my child catch up with other students in the same class that have been learning Chinese longer than my child? Okay, it's in year 6.
Okay, you do not have to worry at all. As I said, when you come in, even like adults, if you do not speak one word, and we're going to teach you from very beginning, as I just said, as I introduced, what's your name, how old are you? No, this is not for adults, and how many people in your family, and starting from those basics, counting and colors, and then later on, I guess in this language learning process, it's not a competition. It's about where you are, where you want to move forward. And some students have the talent in language. They can learn really fast. And for some of us, not even students, everybody, language is just not something for us and takes a longer time. That is okay. It's the talent, and we offer differentiated, tailor-made program here. And the first thing, we would like our students, especially non-native speakers, to enjoy this language, to like this language. And the motivations and attitudes are very important. At the moment, we do not have year 6. And next year, we are going to have the first year 6. So all of our year 5 at the moment, they're native speakers. And I'm really looking forward to see what would happen when this case, as you mentioned, happened in our class. And then next year in the webinar, I can introduce you more. I can tell you more about it with the real examples in my hands. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, the following question is, will the school offer year 7 and year 8?
Thank you, Evan. This is a very good question. Yes, our plan is offering year 7 and year 8, and the application is submitted. The Chinese program was again designed by myself. Thank you, Evan.
Thanks. Okay, let's go back to the Chinese curriculum.
Thank you.
You mentioned your background of teaching Chinese at ESF. What is the difference between Chinese at Wycombe Abbey and Chinese at ESF International School?
Thank you. This is a very interesting question. Actually, I've been working in several international schools, bilingual schools, including bilingual school. What are the differences? I would say, first of all, we have 7 lessons per week. And Chinese, we are not a bilingual school, but Chinese is one of the core subjects. It is equally important as maths and English. The second thing, we promote bicultural. I think biculture is very important when we talk about global citizens. Culture is related to language, but it's not only the language. When I was introducing myself, I said, I believe language is the vehicle to understand the world. So I guess focus on the Chinese curriculum here at Wycombe Abbey and put a lot of effort. As you can see, they employed me as the deputy head to be in charge of teaching and learning. This is providing students an fundamental ability to understand the world and to have the critical thinking in their language, in different languages. I guess in the end, they still have their mother tongue, but they can understand the other people's perspectives, and they can understand the world better. So no matter which school, they design their curriculums in a very different approach. And what are we all, as educators in the schools, what we are all working for is striving our students for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, another question is about our general curriculum. Are there any standardized examinations or tests for other subjects except Chinese?
Thank you. Well, yes, the standard exam is the common entrance exam. When students graduate from year 8, it's common entrance exam 13 plus. From year 1 to year 6, at the moment, we do not have any standard exams, and this is not the requirement. However, as Mr. Tuckett, our founding principal, always believes, teaching students examining skills is very, very important as well. We don't teach for exams, but students should have these skills. These skills requires time management, requires some techniques, how you can skip the challenging items and go into the ones you're very confident. So we are still developing as the same in Chinese. We are still developing our assessed curricula. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay. Does the school provide special education needs support?
Yes, we do. We have a Senko in school. She is very knowledgeable, and she has a lot of working experience from the other international schools too. And usually our procedure is when class teachers or any subject teachers find any problem, they're going to have a conversation with our Senko. And our Senko will make time and appointments to observe this child in classes. And then for the referral, and we will provide or communicate with parents. And we usually recommend some assessment. And parents can go and do it outside the school. And with the report, Senko will design very special, again, tailor-made measures and for this child, to support this child in different lessons. The cases we have now is the Senko will follow this child to some classes and provide teachers some strategies to teach. In the meanwhile, the Senko also works with the class teachers closely, and they do pull out as well. So if she never thinks it is necessary to this child to have an individual lesson with Senko, we always pull this child out. And then we can develop emotional skills or managing their emotions. And we, as we say, we promote whole person education. So academic is one of them. And we would like students to, this is for the general students as well, to learn to be a better person. The answer is yes, we have Senko, and we have a very good quality of special needs education. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So what are the nationalities of our students?
They are all over the world. We are private schools. We are a private school, as you know. As private schools, we do not restricted by nationalities or passports. So we are here for all of students. Hong Kong students, all of students from the other parts of the world. At the moment, we have 2/3 Asian students and 1/3 from the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, the coming question is about the transportation. Does our school offer the school bus transportation across Hong Kong?
Yes, the bus policy, school bus policy is the mandatory school bus policy, which means each student has to take the school bus. And our school bus network is still developing. So do not worry where you live And once you are here, we are going to our admission department and our school bus coordinator are going to work out the best route for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And another question is, will the students have preferential or automatically entry to Wycombe Abbey School UK or other Wycombe Abbey schools?
Well, I have to say, boys, if you are the parent of the boy, no, because the Wycombe Abbey in the UK is a girls' school. So we have to separate these questions. The first part is if there is automatic transition to UK Wycombe Abbey, no, I'm afraid it is very hard. However, it's our goal to have these to have our name on UK Wycombe Abbey's good reputation book. It is, as we all know, the UK Wycombe Abbey is top 1 girls' school in the UK, and they have the rigor in academic and other fields areas. So that's our I have to say our educational goal to preparing these students for Wycombe Abbey in the UK, our girls. But if we have the automatic transition to the other Wycombe Abbey in the rest of part of world, yes. And I'm not the best person to tell you the answer here because my boss, Mr. Tuckett, is really experienced and is really knowledgeable about this. Please do come to our introduction to Wycombe Abbey next week, and Mr. Tuckett will tell you more. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, the following question is, will Wycombe Abbey School Hong Kong offer Year 7 and Year 8 in the future?
Yes, as we submitted our application, and Mr. Tuckett was responsible for designing Year 7 and Year 8 curriculum, just like in the primary stage, and myself designed the Chinese curriculum. We did, and we believe, we're very confident that we have the resources, we have facilities here, and we're just waiting. Wish us good luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Now we will ask the last question for today, and we will still focus on our Chinese curriculum. Okay. Do your pupils do school performance and demonstrations in Chinese? Are parents invited to watch?
Yes, of course. Parents are always invited to our school events. And the latest one, it was the Christmas show, and it was our first show. Tell you the secret, Mr. Tuckett was very nervous in August when we opened, and he wanted a really good, excellent Christmas show. And you know what? It turned out more than excellent. He was very surprised, and he was very happy. And parents enjoyed our show as well. And in the show, Chinese was used, combined in the show. It's not the very unnatural way, but students just talk in a very natural way. Now we are planning the end of year art festival, and the Chinese is already on the topic. If you would like to know more, come to visit our campus and let us tell you more, and you can feel this atmosphere as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Now, do you have any closing remarks for our viewers?
I think I have talked it a lot, and I'm in English, which is not my first language. I hope you coped well. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to do my closing speech in Chinese again. 著名的法国启蒙思想家、哲学家和教育家卢梭曾经说过：“教育是使学生喜欢你所教的东西。”身为教育者，我们自当不辱使命。希望今天的线上说明会能够让你对香港的雅学校留下美好的印象， 对我们的中文课程获得清晰的认识和了解。如果您还想进一步了解更多的详情，欢迎通过现在您在屏幕上看到的这个联系方式与我们联系。我们随时随后恭候您的参观，请继续关注我们，给予我们支持。周末愉快，谢谢。
Thanks, Jenny, and thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. As mentioned, if you would like to learn more about our school, please do contact us through the contact information on the screen. We will also be hosting another webinar next Friday, May 15th, and the topic will be a general introduction of Wycombe Abbey School, Hong Kong. This webinar will be led by both our headmaster, Mr. Howard Taki, and Deputy Academic Head, Ms. Jenny Chen. The sign-up details for this webinar will be available on our school website and also on our various media platforms. Thank you everyone for your time today, and we are looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you.